All right, the arts. I mean, this is a topic we could have an entire hour-long Hamilton Life show on. I mean, first of all, it's very vital to our community, and it's growing. I mean, you hear all the time the amount of artists coming from other cities to live in Hamilton and work in Hamilton, and not only with art, but with music. And I think this is really something as a community we need to embrace and support. So we're going to dedicate a little bit of time here this morning to talk about basically the championing the arts in our community. So I'll introduce you to our guests. I have three of them. So I've got Colina Maxwell right beside me, who's the Executive Director of Centre 3 Print and Media Arts, Stephanie Vegh, Hamilton Arts Council, and Tim Potocic from Sonic Unyon, and of course behind Supercrawl and just doing a ton in our community. All three of you, thank you so much for joining us, because this is a really great topic to talk about. So how we kind of can condense it into sort of a smaller segment is going to be difficult, but let's first just talk about the importance of art in the community.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Go for it.
Well, I think it's important with any sector in our community that you have champions defending, promoting, and supporting what we do. For me, it's like a muscle. If you don't work it and develop it, it will shrivel. So like culture and creativity, we have to keep it active and a strong muscle.
That's a great way to put it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Have some strong muscles. I mean, you've been doing a lot in the community to support the arts. And I think it's really difficult, too, for just a lot of artists in general. Like when you read through and you get to know some artists, just the struggle that they deal with when it comes to even trying to survive on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's a huge reason why we changed our focus at the Hamilton Arts Council, because these days our arts community is just so huge. And there's so much excellent work happening out there. But asking artists to both create that work and to advocate for themselves at the same time, that's a lot to take on. So by with the Hamilton Arts Council, putting our focus into advocating for those big picture issues and making sure that people are aware of things like arts funding and, the underpayment of artists that is, happening all over the place in our community. That allows artists to focus more on doing the excellent things that they do and allowing us to draw more attention to the issues that happen clear across the sector for sure.
Well, let's talk just briefly about funding for programs in our community and even for artists individually. I think as a community we don't always understand how that all works. Like we hear about it in the media little bits here and there, but we don't truly get it. So Tim, can you give us some perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean it's really challenging. There's a lot of people in the community vying for a very small pie of money that the city has to offer. Years ago, about 4 years ago, there's a task force that was struck through the AAC and the Arts Funding Task Force.
Which you were part of?
Which I was part of, yes. And that was struck to sort of take a look at the arts funding, how Hamilton as a municipality funds the arts as a general, in a general way, and try to liaise with the community to find the best way to put a gold standard model together. So years and years of consultation, talking to everybody in the community, from individual amateur artists all the way up to the professional organizations within the city, and trying to determine the best way to move forward. And a new funding model is being proposed now. We're finally at the point now, city staff's drafting a new model, and we're trying to get that implemented, and along with that also trying to request that the funding is increased, because the arts community is really
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yes.
$1 million. Yeah, and $1 million is an okay amount of money. We would like more, but $1 million is a good start, and at least it'll propel some a little needed growth into the arts community.
And it's certainly needed growth in Hamilton, because I mean there was a study of 8 cities that was done on per capita art funding, and Hamilton ranked second to the bottom.
Yeah, 7th out of 8.
Like I mean that just seems crazy to me when you're looking at some cities that are smaller than Hamilton to begin with.
Yeah. One of the critical things I think that people don't understand, I mean there's lots of things you wouldn't understand about arts funding, but municipal arts funding for any organization or artist, it really allows you, if you receive $1 from the City of Hamilton, you can lobby those dollars, every dollar you receive, to more dollars provincially, federally, private money. So it's very important, it's absolutely critical that the city gets behind as many artists and organizations within the city as that they possibly can, because it'll only allow those people to generate more dollars to the city, generate more economic spin-off into the city in general, and propel the community, but also propel the city as a whole.
It also, I believe, it's a little embarrassing as well, because when we're applying for grants at the provincial and the federal level and we're securing more money than our city is giving, then those representatives turn around to us and say, does your city not appreciate what you're doing? So it becomes a little embarrassing, where I feel I'm always trying to justify to the other granting bodies why we're being funded so little.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it is an
no
issue.
doubt.
I mean,
it's-
it comes down to what kind of community do we want to live in, and what kind of community do we want to leave for the next generation.
And let's talk about that, the community, and how the community can get behind the arts. Because I think a lot of times, we'll go to the events and we'll do different things, but we don't think about it probably as much as we should, and the importance that it has in our community.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is, yeah, you are looking, yeah.
Arts Council, so.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I think attendance at arts events is a huge way of showing your support, and it's something that we could definitely see happening more in this community. I mean, certainly, you have things like Tim's event, Super Crawl, which has, huge attendance. You have art crawls, but you know what? You can walk down James North at any other day of the month, and you still have galleries that are fairly empty. And we still have, theater companies that, are struggling to fill houses. And, like typically across the city, there's still a lot of people who don't want to come downtown and experience the arts. And that's something that needs to change. It's something that is changing. But, more of the city could definitely stand to, get behind the arts in a much more meaningful way, and to recognize that, we have a very vibrant cultural community here. You don't have to go to Toronto to experience the arts. We have a lot of homegrown talent who, people across the country revere many of our artists, but here in the city, we're not doing nearly as much to support them as we should.
Yeah, I mean, I think James Street North is a prime example. I mean, if you haven't done it, just take a walk down that street, and it'll give you a feel for what's going on, at least a bit of a feel for what's happening in our community.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's probably your turn.
Yeah,
Kat.
go ahead.
But I think it's also important that we take responsibility as art groups as well, that we make our programming relevant, and that we're constantly working on audience development. And how do we engage the youth? How do we engage the seniors? How do we engage children to be a part of what we're doing? If we want them to support us, we have to make what we do relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
absolutely.
perspective, and I think, hitting the nail right on the head with
Well,
that one.
If they don't understand, like if we don't make art accessible, then how are we expecting people to support what we are doing? So if we want to outreach and connect with our community, I think we have to think actively as a community, the cultural sector, and how can we be more active? Like, yes, I agree the city should step up, and they're working on it, but we also have our part too, to reaching out to the wider community.
Yeah, two-way street.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah,
great
for sure.
partnership
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Right? And many partnerships. You as artists and with the events and all the things that go on with the community, with the city, with anybody who can come on board as a sponsor or to support this as well. I mean, it all has to work together.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Absolutely.
one of the things we take really seriously at Supercrawl is it's all about collaborations. So we have to bring as many people and as many groups, cultural groups, business groups, BIAs, neighborhood associations, artist groups, artist organizations, try to bring as many of them to the table as we can, because we understand that those collaborations are what's critical to driving audience. It's one of the things that it's probably the biggest thing we take most seriously as we're programming the
Yeah,
event.
as I said, we need like a full show to talk about this. Maybe we can get that to happen, because
Yeah.
I think there's so much and it's so important to our community. I thank you all for coming in today.
Thanks.
Really awesome. So if you want more information, you can check it out via 3 ways: Hamilton Arts Council, hamiltonartscouncil.ca, or give them a phone call. You can just Google them as well and see what's going on. Sonic Unyon, Supercrawl, sonic.unyon.com, supercrawl.ca. You can also call 905-777, it's gone now, or Center 3 for Print and Media Arts, 905-524-5084, center3.com for more information. We'll do more on this and we'll cover more. In the meantime, check out this great look for your wedding.